Hello everyone. This is an introduction lecture on inventory categorization. We will continue our study of inventory management, and we said that the very important or the task needed to deliver inventory management are there are three tasks, namely inventory categorization, forecasting, and replenishment. And today, or for this lecture, we'll take up inventory categorization. We said last time that the theoretical foundation for doing inventory categorization is the Pareto's law. The Pareto's law stated that 80% of the output is based on 20% of the input. And so if we can now aggregate this input into one classification, then we can be fixing immediately 80% or achieving 80% of our goals by just working on the 20%. So if we can classify this in stock SKUs, then we'll be doing a lot of good for the company. This is based on the statement done by Professor Pareto, who said that 20% of the input accounts for 80% of the output. He went to Germany, in East Prussia in Germany, and found that this is true. 20% of people in East Prussia has 80% of the money. And this is also this phenomenon is also observable in other situations like products, human body, and inventories. One would find that 20% of inventory items contribute to 80% of the total value of the inventories per annum. This 20-80 is known as the Pareto's law. This is one of the most popular classification system for inventories. This ABC classification is based on the annual consumption or the consumption value. What is a consumption value? A consumption value is the amount of general of value of that items that are used. And so this is obtained by multiplying the price of that item or the cost of that item, unit cost, times the total quantity used in 1 year. So that's the annual consumption value. And we are saying that the high annual consumption value would have A items, and the low annual consumption value would be classified as C items. Anything in between could be classified as B items. Take note that whatever the consumption value is, or whatever the bracket for a certain classification is based on the management decision. So either you have an A item, a B item, or a C item. Is basically a managerial decision or senior management decision. I'd like to focus your attention now on this slide. In this particular slide, we are looking at management decision to classify consumption value between 5,000 to 10,000 as a B item, and anything above should be above 10,000. That means 10,000 10001 should be an A item, and anything below or less than 5,000, that means 4999, is classified as a C item. So as you can see, on the first column, you have the SKU label, A, B, C, D, up to J. And then on the second column, you have the monthly consumption. That means this monthly consumption has to be multiplied by 12 to get the annual consumption. If you now multiply the price per unit to the annual consumption value, then you have the annual consumption unit, then you have the annual consumption value. After that, you are now free to classify it. Let's now go to the next slide. Continuing what I said, using the same slide, now I put some arrows. So for item C, you can see that the monthly consumption, 50, has been multiplied by 12, giving you 600. And the price per unit of C is 9. If you multiply 9 by 600, then you now get 5,400. Since based on the definition, anything between exactly 5,000 and 10,000 shall be B items, and therefore item C is now classified as a B. Please follow the computation of the other item and convince yourself that these are correct classifications. This particular slide talks about classifying the inventory based on the unit price alone. So we have an upper bracket of high, a lower bracket of low, and the middle bracket of medium. As again, it depends now on management. What type of bracket ranges do they want to use? In our example here, anything above, that means anything above 10,000 SR is, or items above 10,000 R are considered high item, H items. And anything below 5,000, that means 4999.99 are considered L items. Anything in between from 5,000 to 10,000 are M items. This slide shows the example we have for the classification of items based on unit price alone. As you can see, the requirement here is that all items above 10, that means 11 and up, are to be classified as H item. And anything below a certain amount, 5, anything below 5 SR should be classified as L item, that means 4 and below. So anything exactly 5 up to exactly 10 will have to be classified as medium. These slides portray the classification based on being a vital to a certain thing, desirable or essential. And quite often, this classification applies to spare parts, because in spare parts, the issues or the usages are very little, but there are so many. You can have one. These are the spare parts used for a big machine. So you can see that the maintenance group, say in one organization, should be able to fix say a car based on the inventory he has. So the vital ones would be is the upper part of the echelon, the desirable with the bottom part, and the middle with the essential. As you can see, the classification is usually applicable in case of spare parts, as they do not follow a predictable demand pattern. Hence, here the classification of the part is done on the basis of importance of a part, the operations of a plant or machinery. This is very important. The classification of the part is done on the basis of importance of that part to the operations of a plant or machinery. Therefore, for vital items, for items classified as vital, it should be reasonably large inventory should be stocked, and items classified as desirable should be minimized. This slide talks about the classification of items based on its scarcity, and therefore this ties up, or this should be classification of an item should of this type should be in collaboration with the purchasing department, because they would know whether the an item, this particular item, is easily obtainable, or it is difficult to obtain, or really very rare, and therefore you have the scarcity or scarce, difficult to obtain, and easy to obtain. The scarce items are those which are not readily available or have the chances to be out of stock most of the time, so that these are treated as A items. Imported items are normally difficult to obtain and might have longer lead times, and for E items, the inventory controllers need not be worried and are stocked in pure quantities. Another form of classification is the Gulf classification, which is ordinary, government, ordinary, local, or foreign. These are the items that need government approval to be purchased. Like, for example, very important stones that are used for weighing scale, or items like used for explosives. And when we say it is foreign, that means it has to be purchased from outside. And on the other hand, the government would mean a very heavy documentation are needed. And you have the ordinary and the local. Ordinary and local items are those which are available easily within the country. And quite often, items that are imported in would need government approval. Some animals used for the lab need to be approved by the government. This classification, the FSN classification, talks about fast-moving, slow-moving, and non-moving items. It talks about how fast a particular item are being issued. So, for example, food or things that are used for uh, for for daily life would be considered fast-moving, and items that are used very rarely, like for example, hand sanitizer before the corona time was slow-moving, but now it has reversed because of the coronavirus phenomenon. Hand sanitizers and alcohol, for example, has become fast-moving. This classification takes into account the pattern of issue from stores to each item. It is also used to control the obsolescence of an item. Stock controllers must be careful about non-moving items, which are normally the parts or items no more in use due to the change of technology. These are examples of FSN items, or actually these would be the FMCG, or the fast moving consumer items. FMCG stands for fast moving consumer goods. And from the perspective of the consumer, there are frequent purchases, low engagement, low prices, short shelf life, rapid consumption, and price comparison over online purchase by customers. These are the characteristics of FMCG. But if you ask for the perspective of the marketer, it is considered as high volume, low contribution margin. The profit from it is very little per unit. But because of the volume, the total effect would be high. Extensible distribution networks and high inventory turnover. These are examples of FMCG: the fish, fruit, vegetables, dairy products, etc. These are another examples of FMCG. This slide talks about the classifying items, whether it is seasonal or off-seasonal. There are many items which are essential in nature, such as commodities like wheat, cotton, maize, fruits, vegetables, etc. So all the seasonal items must be purchased in big quantities at an appropriate time. During season, the rates of the items are lower as compared to the off-season. These are examples of SOS items. Summarizing now the various classification methods, we now consider all of them, and you see we have the following classification. We have ABC, HML, VED, SDE, Golf, FSN, and SOS. So a total of 7 classifications. As you can see, the inventory manager does not classify them alone. It has to be classified together with other people with the help of other professionals. For example, the ABC classification is done together with the accountant. The HML, which is based on price, should be classified with the marketing people, because it is they who knows the price and they know how it is in the marketplace. The VED talks about the impact of an item on the machine, and this has to be purchased, or this has to be classified with the mechanic. The SDE, who takes care of procurement, is taken care of by the purchaser, and so we have to classify it with the help of the purchaser. The GOLF, the GOLF, is really based on how much documentation an item is needed, and therefore has to be classified together with the government liaison officer, or with the government liaison manager, as the case may be. In every organization, there is somebody who takes care of its relationship with the government, with the documentation part. And FSN is based on the demand rate, how fast or how quickly an item are used up. And this is basically a function of the marketing manager. He is the one who can predict in advance how changes in the demand rate will happen. And lastly, we have the seasonal or culture-based items, SOS, and has to be done also together with the marketing person. This ends Module 3, Part 1, and please try and attempt the quiz at the end, at the quiz section. It will inform you of how well you understand the topic. Thank you.